Yo, what's the need for us today? Is me, Francis Jr. Welcome to today's Python coding tutorial. And in today's Python coding tutorial, we are going to be learning how to create a simple calculator. Yes, of course, using Python programming language. Okay, stick with me as we roll. Now first, we are going to be using functions like define, def, which is a short form for define, def addition. Now I want to show us something first before we proceed. Def addition here takes A and here takes B. This is a block of code, so we come under it, and of course we return A plus B, right? So doing this is good. Yeah, so let's come down here to call out the function, print out the function addition, and it's going to take two arguments, which here let's pass in 4 here, and also pass in 4 here, which is going to give us 8 when we run this. So let's run our code. Now traditionally, this is a good way for creating an addition in Python. Yes, it's a good way, but I want us to do something different here. And using this way, it can take multiple arguments, because if we should come down here and add another argument, let's add 5, we are going to get an error. Let's run this code. You see, we get an error. So instead of using this local way, or should I say the traditional way for addition, we are going to change this and we are going to use this format. Just stick with me as we go together. If you are a beginner, make sure you copy everything as you see it here. Don't worry, I'll explain it as we go on. So now let's change here to, let's remove this, let's take this out, and let's replace this with number. And before replacing it with number, let's use an asterisk here so that it will take multiple inputs. So we come here and return. There's a built-in function in Python known as sum. So we come here and return the sum of numbers. Now the sum is an addition. In Python programming language, yes, for beginners, there is a built-in function called the sum, which brings input and add them together. But there is none for division, multiplication, except you are using a library called NumPy. But that is advanced for this tutorial. Let's continue. So when we use the sum and input an asterisk here, so our input can take multiple arguments. So let's come here and test this code and see if it works perfectly. We come here using the print. Let's call out addition. And now let's pass in 5. Okay, let's pass in another 5. Good. Let's pass in another 5. And when we run this code, we have 15. Now you see that our addition can take multiple arguments. So let's give this a comment here, telling the user that this is addition. So after defining a comment, telling the users that this is addition, because in coding, it is always good to have a comment so that your code will be readable. Let's assume somebody else wants to read your code. Yeah, so your comment will help the person to read your code. Let's take this out. When we are done creating every other things like the multiplication, the division, the subtraction, then we are going to test the whole code altogether. But each code we create, we are going to test them one after the other. So after defining a function, this is a short way for defining a function using the def. This is addition, the name of our function, and of course we return the sum of the numbers that is going to be imputed, right? So now let's come down, and this time around let's do that of a subtraction. So we come here, let's give it a comment, let's give all the comment we need. So here is for subtraction, and let's come down. We simply define a function using the def, short form for define, and the name of our function, which is subtraction. Yeah, subtraction. And also we pass in asterisks, and so that our argument can take multiple inputs, and also use number here. This is a block of code, so we add a column, and under it, what are we going to do now? This is quite different from that of the addition because there's no built-in function here for subtraction. So what do? Let's create the result. The result is going to store the first value we input, or the value we input. Yeah, so in our result, let's store the first number that is imputed as number, then it takes the index of 0, which stands for the first number. Then let's also come down here, and for the next numbers that will be imputed in our code, so we'll say for number, or for num in number, then for the next numbers that will be imputed, so after the first number, which is at the index of 0, the next number will be at index 1, and for the rest of the number, which is 1, and you use a column like this thing signifies after the first number, which is at index 0, the second number, which is at index 1, and the rest of the number, all of them under one block, because this is the for loop, right? So all of them should be subtracted from our result. So we pass in num here. All the numbers imputed after the first number should be subtracted from our result. Then let's come down here and this time print out our result, because it's of course going to be modified. So return our result. Yes, and that is that. So we've done for subtraction. Let's test our code. We give a space and let's call it out. So let's call out our function, which is subtraction, right? Subtraction. Then our asterisk sub, don't forget, helps us to pass in multiple arguments here. So let's pass 5, and 5 should subtract 3, and also let's test this first. 5 subtracts 3. When we run this code, of course it's going to give us 2 as our output. So let's also come here and subtract another number from it, because our code is built to take multiple arguments, right? So if we subtract 2 here, of course we'll be left with nothing, right? So let's run this. We have 0 printed here. Now our subtraction function is working perfectly. Let's delete our test, and it is time for multiplication. So we do the same thing. We come here, we define a function, and of course passing the name of our function, which is multiplication. Please always know that whenever you are building a function, the name should not start with an uppercase letter. Yeah, don't capitalize the first word. It should always be in a lowercase. So we come here and also pass in the asterisk, and so that it will take multiple arguments. Then this is a block of code, right? We come down here and set the first results to the first item that will be imputed by the user, and set this to result to be equal to the first item that is imputed by the user. And for the next items that will be imputed, let's use num. For the next items that will be imputed, this is a block of code, right? So let's return the results, and let's tell the result to multiply the next items that will be imputed. So you should multiply by the next items, which is num, right? And we come down here and return our result, of course. So we return our results, yes, and we are done. Now let's come down here. We give 2-line space whenever you done building a function. You give 2-line space. Then let's test our function if it's working perfectly. So we come here and print the name of our function, which is multiplication, right? And we pass in, first of all, let's pass in 2 arguments, which is 4 and 4, and 4 times 4 is supposed to give us 16, right? So we run this, we have 16 as our output. This is cool. Now let's pass in another argument. Let's make this 5, and when we run this, we have 80. 4 times 4 times 5, 80. So we are done for the multiplication. And lastly here is our division. So this is our code so far. Lastly is our division. So same thing, we come down here and define division, and of course give it an asterisk, an asterisk so that it can carry multiple arguments. And we come here, set the result, which is the first item, right, to be set the result to be the first item which is imputed. So we come here and call out the first item, which is at index 0. Okay, we are getting an indentation error. We need to give indentation line, we need to give a space there, right? So we come down here again and use our for loop for the subsequent numbers that will be added. For number in numbers, aside the first number that is imputed, yes, this is the block of code. So what are we going to do? Let's return the results. So it modifies the results to be divided by the number. So we come down here and return our results, and we are done. So for testing this code, we give 2 line space and come here and use our print, call out the name of our function, which is the division, and pass in, let's pass in 2 arguments. This time let's make it 5 and 5, which we know it's obviously going to give us a 1. So when we run this, let's take this out. Okay, we have an error. We forgot to return our results. We only imputed return, so of course we need to return our results. So when we return our result and we go ahead to run this code, we have a 1.0. now if we should add another one, of course it's going to give us a decimal. 5 divided by 5 divided by 5. Bet me if you punch your calculator, you're still going to get the same answer. So there's an indentation error here. Let's clear it out. Yes, we only give 2 line break after creating a function. So now our functions, our simple calculator is working perfectly. We have a calculator that has the addition, we have a calculator that has subtraction, we have a calculator that has multiplication, and lastly we have a calculator that have division. So let's go ahead and test this code one after the other again. First, let's call out the addition and pass in our arguments 5 and 5. Let's pass in 5 and 5. We have an error, indentation error. Let's pass in 5 and 5, and let's run it again one more time. We get 10 for our addition. Let's call out the subtraction and let's pass in argument 7 minus 6, and we are gonna get 1. And next, let's call out the division. Next, I've forgotten. Let's call out the division and let's pass in 6 and 3, which is definitely going to give us 2.0. It's a float, right? 2. So it's returning the float to us. And now let's pass in multiplication, and let's call out the multiplication and pass in 2 arguments, 6 and 6, which is going to give us 36 when we run it. So let's run it again. Yes, 36. So our code is working perfectly as we want. And that is that for today. Please like, follow and subscribe. Make sure you click the notification button so as to get a notification whenever any video is posted. Adios.